Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher notech Torah emet v'bosra Yeshua leom Yisrael v'lemikol chachamim al yadi banu Yeshua HaMashiach Adonanu. On Iyar 28th, or June 5th, 1446 BC, the Bnei Israel arrived in the wilderness of Sinai. Here is a mountain known as Jabal al-Awaz. It is here that they encamp at its base. On Sivan 4th, or June 10th, Bnei Israel is told by Moshe that the Eternal One will come in a thick cloud. Soon after this revelation, a perimeter away from the base Jabal al-Awaz is erected. Israel is told to not cross this boundary until the shofar blasts on penalty of death. In the meantime, all 2.5 to 3.5 million people are to wash their clothes and prepare themselves for the coming of Adonai by abstaining from sexual relations. On Sivan 7th, June 13th, a thick cloud envelops the whole upper portion of the mountain. Amid the darkness of this cloud, one can hear claps of thunder and see flashes of lightning as fire blazes. A blast from a shofar is so intense that it makes people tremble as they approach closer to the base. As the Eternal One rests upon the summit, Moshe is ordered to go down, get his brother Aaron, and return, while the rest of the nation must stay away from the base. He then pronounces 10 categories of his mitzvot, which are repeated by Moshe to the nation. Then it is stated that he only requires an earthen altar with a ramp. If they make him a stone altar, it must be of natural stone and not hewn. Furthermore, the regulations on the death penalty, compensation for injury or loss of property, loss of stolen property, loans, civil and ethnic harmony are given. Furthermore, they are not to deny justice to and upon anyone. Certain days are set aside as holy days. From Nisan 15th to 21st, they are to gather wherever he causes his name to be in order to celebrate Pesach and the festival of Matzah. On Sivan 6th and 7th, they are to gather wherever he causes his name to be in order to celebrate Shavu'ot. During Tishri the 15th to the 21st, they are to gather wherever he causes his name to be in order to celebrate Sukkot. Soon Moshe, his brother Aaron, his nephews Nadab and Abihu, and the 70 elders of Israel, 5 to 6 representatives from each tribe approach the cloud-shrouded divine presence. While Moshe is commanded to approach him alone, the other 73 men are to remain prostrate. Moshe writes down all his words and later goes to sleep. The glorious appearance upon the summit was of the same magnitude which Yechezkel saw on June 21st, 592 BC. He sees flashing fire erupt from a northerly windstorm that envelops the whole area by the Kabar River, where the priestly Nebi stands. He sees the cherubim, which are angelic beings with wings covered in eyes and bearing 4 faces each, which bears witness to the all-seeing nature of the king and his command over mankind, the domesticated beasts and their wild counterparts, and the birds of the air. In addition, he sees the Ophanim, which look like immobile barrel wheels within other immobile wheels and bearing moving eyes all about the rim of the outer and inner wheels. Over these, the Nebi sees the throne, which looks like sapphire, with a man radiating, gleaming, amber-colored fire and brilliant light sitting upon it. On Shavu'ot, May 24th, AD 33, the 120 men and an unknown amount of women are talking and praying in an upper room. Yerushalayim's 100,000 people have swollen to 4 million for the festival in remembrance of Torah being given to Moshe 1,479 years prior. Suddenly, a gale-force wind blows and fireballs appear above the heads of those that are in the room. This is a manifestation of the Ruach HaKodesh, and now these 100 men and an unknown number of women can speak Median, Elamite, Sumerian, Akkadian, Middle Persian, Las, Pontian Greek, Koan Greek, Pamilian Greek, Phrygian, Parthian, Classical Latin, Nabatean Aramaic, Nabatean Arabic, which are the languages spoken by tourists, soldiers, citizens, and pilgrims. Such languages being spoken by Judeans and Galileans surprise the masses. Kepha, though, in the face of ridicule, delivers a derasha. Contrary to the belief of certain people who witness this mingling of language, these 120 men and unknown amount of women are not drunk. Quoting Yoel 3:1-5, Kepha recalls that the king promised to pour out his spirit on all humanity, in which sons and daughters will prophesy, old men will dream dreams, young men will see visions. Furthermore, manifestations of blood, fire, and smoke will appear upon the earth and in the sky, while the sun will turn dark and the moon will turn to blood before the great and terrible day of Adonai. Before that day, anyone who would call upon the name and join the remnant of the survivors in Mount Zion or Jerusalem will be saved. He then expounds upon Yeshua, who demonstrated the king's powerful works and worked through him. He continues with retelling the arrest and death of Yeshua according to Adonai's will through the assistance of pagans and Judean leaders. Furthermore, the resurrection is tied to Tehillim 16 verses 8-11, in which David, through imagery and allegory, foreshadowed that Yeshua would submit to his Father's will and would rejoice in his suffering that would yield to safety from Sheol, or the place of the dead, a reprieve from Abaddon, and a place at the king's right hand, lighting the path which leads to an endless, joyful life and not to death. Naming Melech David as a Nebi, or prophet, he recalls the promise of an eternal dynasty and connects it to the resurrection of Hamashiach, who was not abandoned in Sheol. Kepha boldly states that he has been exalted, as Tehillim or Psalm 110 verse 1 states, to the right hand of Adonai, has received from the Father what he promised, namely the Ruach HaKodesh, and has poured out this gift, which these witnesses are both seeing and hearing. With fiery conviction, Kepha boldly proclaims that Yeshua, who had been executed, is not only Hamashiach, but also Master and Melech Hamashiach, or King Messiah. At this, the Judeans and pilgrims become ashamed. Kepha compels them to perform teshuvah, or to return, repentance, and be immersed on the authority of Yeshua HaMashiach, upon which they, their children, and all who are called can receive the Ruach HaKodesh. Soon 3,000 men and women are immersed in the mikvot of the city. This means that the 100 men immerse 25 men and women each. The church is now 3,120 men and women.